So this here is a new to me 1917 Fairbanks Morse Model Z, 6 horsepower. Hard to see there. 1917. So this thing's about 104 years old. It's farm fresh, rusty, crusty, dusty, all that good stuff. This would have been used to pretty much power a machine shop with line belts, kind of like my old lathe here off this belt system, overhead vertical belt. Anyway, this thing's pretty rough. Missing the magneto here, which is probably the most expensive part of the the machine. But I got the original oiler with it here, so probably the second most valuable part of the thing here. So we'll get that all shined up. It goes up on here to oil the main piston. This is the mixer, sort of predates the carburetor. It's very rusty inside, so to give that a good sandblasting. Everything's painted over, seized up. This fuel pump here doesn't move at all. Exhaust is down here. This is the intake valve, just opens via suction. It feels okay, but this exhaust valve is pretty tight. I can't make it move at all, so probably gonna have to take the head off here and have a look at those valves. I did find somebody selling replacement valves for this, believe it or not, but they're about $80 a pair, so $80 each rather. So we're gonna try to save these valves without having to buy new ones. This is a kerosene motor, so it has a tank underneath here, and you'd start it on gas, pour a little bit of gas in here to get it going. This is actually to drain the bowl, so you'd open this up, it would drain all the kerosene back in the tank. You'd close that, fill the bowl up with gasoline, get it started, and then open up the fuel pump, and that would pump kerosene, refill the bowl with kerosene after. It'll pretty much run on anything. It was designed for coal tops and yeah, anything you could pretty much burn, it would burn. This is the water hopper, so you'd fill it full of water. That was just cooling. It does have passages that run into the head, but you'd basically keep this full and it would boil water. That's how it was cooled. Everything's seized up here. I'll show you the governor. It doesn't want to spin at all. The weights don't move. Oh, this one wiggles, but so it's going to have to be completely torn apart. It's actually, this gear has worked its way off too. I have the gear inside, but yeah, I'm going to take the whole governor apart, figure out how that all cleans up. And these are grease cups. Crank those down to force a little more grease into the main bearings here. I'm probably going to pull this crank bearing apart today and try to get the piston out. It is free, it does move, but it's very rusty inside. I don't know if you can see, there's actually like a wasp nest inside of the piston. Let's see if I can show you the inside. So, yeah, and that bore is pretty rusty. So I'm going to try to get the piston out today, see how it goes. It is possible to get new rings for this too, apparently, so if we have to, we will do that. But I'm going to try to make it work with what I got. Without the magneto, like I said, it's probably $400 for a magneto, plus all the little gizmos to make it connect. I might just run it off a buzz coil, just a battery, go from there. But yeah, my new project, pretty excited about it, and I'll show you some more once I get it torn apart. Alright, so just got the bolts off the main crank bearing here. So I kind of get the feeling somebody's been through this at some point. It came out way too easy. So that's how it gets oiled. I guess. The grease gets forced around by that grease cup there and just rides around in that little crosshatch. Yeah, it could be worse. I think we'll just clean that up and run it. Emery cloth or something, but yeah, I'll show you when I get the piston out here. And there's the piston. Somebody painted over the back half of it. It looks rusty, but it's actually not too bad. I'll show you once it gets all the way out. Alright, get the piston out now. That is the condition of the bore. We'll hone it out, see what it does. I can't quite see into the valves. We'll figure that out in a minute. Like I said, that could be worse. And we got the piston up here on the healing bench. It's a big one, that's for sure. But these rings, I mean, they're not seized. They've still got some spring to them, so I'm pretty happy with that. Wrist pin there, so it's a little bit tight. Actually, that's not bad. And then, like I said, there's like a wasp nest and all kind of shit in here. So we'll clean that up. And yeah, I think this will do. I think this will do good. Nice. Oh, the the front of this is in way worse shape. So yeah, this is where you crank to get your grease in. There's nothing in here right now, but it'd force it down and out through that little hole, and then it would follow around this crosshatch X pattern. But I mean, you can see here there's nothing left on the inside there, so I'll probably have to come in and V that out with like a needle file, just so we get some lubrication. And then we'll see. There is a shim in here right now, so maybe we can crush it enough that it's got, that it'll hold the bearing well. But otherwise, we can just go a smaller shim in here. See how that goes. But yeah, there's the piston. Alright, and I couldn't help myself. I had to take this off too. So the magneto would sit here, and it would get actuated by this push rod here. And it ran this thing. This is called a plug igniter. Predates spark plug, so you have your positive, negative. And then inside, if I can even get it out, inside the head, you had this operation. So the little lever here, when it got tripped by this finger, it would push this cam into here, and that would actuate this point to disconnect from that point, and that's where you got your spark. Every time that broke connection, it would pull a tiny bitty little spark. That's all you need. So there you go, plug igniter. Predates the spark plug. You can see a little bit into the head here. I'll show you into the bore in a sec. Yeah, so after taking the piston out, you can see the head from the back. It actually looks pretty good. There's obviously some rust in there, which we can probably blow out. I think this cylinder will just hone without having to be rebored or anything fancy like that. And yeah, the valves look pretty good. The top one is seating nicely. That's the intake. And the bottom one actually looks open. I think it's being held open. So yeah, I may not have to pull the head after all, so that'll be cool. You can see here, this drives the cam. So this is off the crank, and then this is twice the size, so you get 4-stroke, right? And somebody's painted over the cam, so we're gonna have to clean this off somehow. And when it comes around, it actuates this little roller here, which is what drives that push rod, which I said runs the igniter and also opens the valve. But yeah, you can see it's not even making contact with the cam here, except one that wants to touch there. So the exhaust valve is obviously at its most open position right now. So I'll have to get that rod freed up. But yeah, I'm thinking this thing will go. Pretty excited. I'll show you more when there's more progress. Alright, and I just removed the governor as well. So the way that this would work is this gear here would drive this gear, which is attached right here, and that would cause this weight system to spin. Obviously the faster it would go, the further out the weights would spin. This guy here is a preload spring, so you could adjust the spring tension here, which was sort of like your minimum idle speed, if you will. It's like your idle control. So that preload on this thing, counteracting the weight of the force of the weight spinning faster and faster, would push out this little pin by my finger, actuating this lever, and that lever here would pull on this linkage, connect it up to the butterfly valve on the mixer. That's actually in the head, but that stops the gas from the mixer going into the head. So this is a throttle governed engine, different than a hit and miss, but the same vintage. So this would hold a constant RPM based on this guy here. It's completely seized, nothing moves at all in this whole assembly, so it will have to get taken apart, sandblasted, electrolysis, all that fun stuff. So yeah, making good progress, just tearing everything I can off this thing. I mean, why not? So we'll be back. Alright, and off comes the mixer. So that was just held on by 2 screws there, and I described how it works before. The intake here is on the bottom. There's supposed to be a little valve there, I think. Screwed in. Yeah, that's the drain, I guess. Very, very rusty inside, but it'll clean up. And all this stuff, the fuel pump, there's like a little check valve in there. It's all frozen. Everything's frozen up. So we'll clean it up. But yeah, I was able to get it out in one piece. The hoses came out of the kerosene tank. And getting a little closer. Just put that down for a second. We can see the butterfly here. It would be actuated by the governor. It's pretty free. It won't close. Okay, it's not very free. It won't close, but it'll open, so we'll take it. Yeah, getting pretty far into this, so yeah, it's just a matter of getting all that old paint out of the way, getting it cleaned up. I want to try to get this push rod freed up next and figure out what's up with the exhaust valve. I'll let you know how that goes.